Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Now, this is a live show. We do take in your questions. If you have any questions you'd like to ask in regards to any topic in Islam, it could be traveling, business, it could be marriage, it could be to do with prayer, fasting, whatever question you have in regards to Islamic law, please send them in via the WhatsApp number. Should be a QR code there in the corner. You can scan that. Or if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook Live, you can send in your questions via the comment section, inshallah. Before we begin, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the Imam of our time and also the Muslim Ummah on the auspicious occasion of the birthday of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam, and also Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. To discuss more is Sheikh Ali Ma'ash. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
How are you doing this evening?
Alhamdulillah, bakhair.
MashaAllah. Congratulations to you, Jashan Mubarak. Assalamu
alaikum.
Before we begin, a few words on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين أسعد الله أيامكم وتقبل الله أعمالكم. A great occasion, the birth, the best of the creation, the master of the creation, within the creation, Sayyidul Makhluqat wal Kainat, the one who brought new life to this creation, revived the humanity from slavery, from ignorance, from Jahiliyyah, to the Nur al-Islam, this great Prophet of Allah, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Indeed, when we recite the Holy Quran and read and reflect and ponder, we'll find this great ayah of the Quran in which Allah states about the Prophet of Islam, وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَىٰ خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. You possess a great means of morals. And the Holy Prophet himself says, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I was sent in order to accomplish and complete the akhlaq of the humans. So his mission wasn't just to tell people, pray, fast, go to Hajj. But the main mission, of course, after the Tawheed, after the Usul al-Din, the basis of Islam, the fundamentals of Islam, was to be sent for the mission of akhlaq, to improve, to give akhlaq, the correct akhlaq in all terms, akhlaq in humanity, akhlaq in speech, akhlaq in writing, akhlaq in society, akhlaq in education, akhlaq in business, akhlaq within material life, and akhlaq within family life. Without this akhlaq, a society cannot proceed and continue. That's why you see that Fatima alayhi salam in her Fadak sermon, she stated to the Muhajirin and Ansar in the mosque that وَكُنْتُمْ عَلَى شَفَى حُفْرَةٍ مِنَ النَّارِ, that you are on the brink, on the edge of the fire, but Allah saved you with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فَأَنْقَذَكُمُ اللَّهُ بِأَبِي Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, yes, indeed, this great Prophet of Islam sallallahu alaihi wasallam was successful in delivering Allah's message, built a great society, community till today, and of course, what he left two weighty, necessary, important things, the Book of Allah and his pure family, in which they will be, of course, gathered on the pond of Kawthar, inshallah, with his followers.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Quick reminder to all our viewers that this is a live show. We're taking all your questions. If you have any question that you'd like to ask, you don't need to know your name or where you're asking from. Just send in your questions via the WhatsApp. QR code is in the corner. Or if you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, you can put it in the comment section. Or why not give us a call live in the studio, 0203-515-0199. Me and the Sheikh are more than happy to discuss your inquiry. Sheikh, now we've got questions coming in from some of our viewers. Let's go through them quickly. Assalamu alaikum. Is it permissible to pray behind Muslims from different sects? Example, if I'm a Shia praying behind a Sunni Muslim. That's from YouTube.
Basically, in the fiqh of the Imamiyya and Ja'fariyya, we have the condition of being the Imam of the Jama'ah, who is a Shia Imam of Jama'ah, that's Maulana or Sayyid or Sheikh. To be just, you have to achieve إحراز العدالة, as mentioned in the books of the fiqh. You have to achieve the adala of that individual. And he's a Shia Imam Itna Ashari. But you have to make sure that he is adil. You can't just pray behind anyone, let alone to pray behind somebody who is not Imami, who is not from the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. No, you have to make sure that you achieve the adala of that Imam you pray behind.
Fair. Also from YouTube, is it permissible to do sajda towards the shrines of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salams out of love? Sheikhna, let's be fair. Sometimes we see this when we go to the shrines and so forth, people go and do sujood. But sometimes it's not sujood. Sometimes they're kissing the ground or kissing, sometimes like a gold bar or something like that. They'll kiss that. So it's not always a sajda. But to do sajda towards the shrines of A'imma, is this allowed?
You see, the sajda is only towards Allah Azza wa Jal, towards the Qibla, as a sign of khushu', ibadah, worship towards Allah Azza wa Jal. What the mu'minin do and those individuals do on the shrines of the Imam Salamullah alayhim, they kiss the ataba, as they say, the doorstep of the Imam alayhi salam, is to pay respect towards the Imam. I've seen one of the Hawza teachers in Damascus, Syria, when he used to go to visit Imam Sayyid Zainab Salamullah alayhi, he would kiss that in doorstep, and he would put his cheeks on that doorstep. And he was Ayatollah, and he was a lecturer. So a sign of respect. But as I've said, the sajda that is the sign of worship is only towards Allah Azza wa Jal.
From WhatsApp, students are asked to draw a human being or an animal that the requirement is such that is different. It is difficult for the student to refuse the assignment. Are they allowed to do the drawing? Okay, so an art student here, Sheikhna, has been required to draw a human body or an animal body and so forth. And to get out of it is very difficult. Is the art student allowed to draw?
Seems to be okay in terms of drawing, yeah. Yeah.
Fair. From YouTube, can I pay pool? I follow the Sayyid. Can I pay pool or can I play pool, I think, which is a game, snooker balls are arguably and so forth like that. Is there any ishkal in that? Is there any issue with that?
As long as it's not originally a gambling game, like the cards, backgammon and so forth, it should be okay, it should be fine. It has to be original, not a gambling game.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. I am a female and I have an adopted 8-year-old boy, but the elders say that it's forbidden to adopt a male child. What to do now that I have adopted the child and he's become very attached to us? He doesn't even know that we are not his biological parents, because we will tell him when he's older. If I separate from him, he will be very hurt mentally. Thank you very much and God bless you.
I mean,
I think that female saying,
you can keep that individual, that boy, for example, but you have to wear hijab from this boy, especially if he's in a discerning age, because even before his bulugh, because he's in discerning age, he can differentiate between the good and the bad.
Yeah.
Then, of course, she needs to wear the hijab from this boy. In this case, yes, she has to consider him as an adult, for example, especially when he reaches the age of puberty and bulugh and adolescence. So she has to make sure that she's in her hijab, covered, not to touch the boy, for example, skin to skin touch, for example. She has to observe all the hijab criteria with this regard.
Sheikh, we've got a long question here from WhatsApp. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. Love the show. The UK government gives money and benefits to those who need it, such as disability claim. To receive these, you need to meet a criteria. If one lies about meeting the criteria to receive the money and then receive the money, is the money halal? If it is haram money, can I use it to go to ziyarah? What do I do if I cannot return the money because a person can be jailed for it? Can I have the answer according to His Eminence the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Sistani?
Ayatollah Sistani, Hafidhullah, mentions that you cannot go against the law of the land you live in, the place you live in. You have to respect the law. You have to be honest with those, let's say the government or the companies in which provide you these services. Let's say like insurance companies, for example. To be honest with them, no cheating, no lying at all. And in terms of the money, of course, we have to see what they say. I have to make sure that you know,
I mean,
that money is allowed to be used.
Being a follower of Amir al-Mu'mineen, one should be honest anyway in whatever they do. Cheating, lying, and being cunning isn't really the attributes that we attach to a Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen especially. Another question here from WhatsApp, Sheikhna. Whenever I'm thinking about a beautiful woman, there comes out a liquid without any lust or ejaculation. Is it semen? How can I understand that this is semen or clean discharge? Okay, so Sheikhna, we have this sometimes. It is a small discharge, but it's not semen from ejaculation. I can't remember the words in Arabic specifically. However, is that najis? Does one have to perform also janaba with the pre-ejaculation?
That type of liquid is pure and tahir, and there's no need for purification of that part or even to do the ghusl, so it should be fine.
Sheikhna, we are commemorating the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that we know he was very, very close to his wife and his daughter specifically, Fatima Zahra sallallahu alaiha. So the question is, why did the Holy Prophet of Islam, peace be upon him, what has the Holy Prophet of Islam said in regards to Fatima Zahra sallallahu alaiha, the Lady of Light?
The Sayyidah Salamullah alaiha, of course, she was one of the the best woman of the world, the leader of the world, chosen by Allah Azza wa Jalla to be the best of the women, from the beginning of the creation to the end of the creation, according to the prophetic narration. So the Prophet ﷺ mentioned lots of hadith with this regard. One of them, he says, وَأَمَّا ابْنَتِي فَاطِمَةَ عليه السلام فهي سيدة النساء العالمين, that and indeed my daughter Fatima is the leader of the women of the world. من الأولين والآخرين, from the beginning to the end of the world. وأنها لتقوم في محرابها, and she stands on her prayer mat during the night. فيسلم عليها 70,000 ملك, and 70,000 malak and angels would say salam and greet her in her salah when she stands before Allah Azza wa Jal. من الملائكة المقربين, from close angels, not just random, close angels of Allah Azza wa Jal, like Jibreel, Mikael, for example.
Yes, MashaAllah. Wow. Quick reminder to all of my viewers that this is a live show. We do take in your questions. I'm getting loads coming in right now, but if you have a question you'd like to send in, please send it via the WhatsApp. The QR code is there. The phone number is also there on the bottom. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, put your questions in the comment section. Inshallah, the technical team will be able to send them to me on my iPad here. And if you'd like to call in, 0203 515 0199, we would love to hear from you. Sheikhna from YouTube, is it allowed to touch non-mahram if to save their life or it is to stop a fight?
You see, these conditions are exceptional when it's needed, like the doctor who needs to touch the body of the non-mahram woman who is patient for operation purposes. These are exceptionals. Of course, there are stages that if he needs to wear gloves, for example, if he needs to touch the skin, of course, that's the next stage, and so forth. So it depends.
Fair enough. From WhatsApp, are playing wrestling, boxing, taekwondo, and karate as a sport allowed?
If there's no severe harm, like loss of limb or organs, it should be fine.
Fair enough. From YouTube, is it okay if I allow my friend to play music in my car while I'm driving? So basically, I'm not putting it and I'm not asking someone to do it. Let's say, Sheikhna, I sit in my car, I'm going to go for a drive, and the passenger, who's my friend, puts on the radio, so forth. Is it okay for me to carry on sitting there listening to music being played, or should I turn it off or tell them no music in my car, please? This is a halal environment.
Well, according to Al-Sistani and some other ulama, that you have two types of music. The entertaining music, which is a haram music, such as DJ, jazz, and so forth, which is haram to be listened. And you have the classical music, which is allowed according to Al-Sistani and others. So it depends which type of music. If it's the haram music, jazz, rock, and so forth, of course, you have to do your bit in terms of nahy an al-munkar. Try your best. Otherwise, one can ignore this music as a background sound. For example, you go to the restaurant.
Yeah.
It's not just in the car. You go to the restaurant, sports shops.
Yeah, shopping malls, Tesco, wherever you go.
It's all music.
Yeah,
but
music everywhere.
You're not allowed to listen to the lyrics and to the melody. So you
just don't pay attention.
It's just don't pay attention as a background sound. That is allowed.
Okay.
And you don't listen.
Yeah.
Clear to the tunes.
Fair enough. Salam alaikum, Sheikh. This is from YouTube. Is it obligatory to wash your hair, scalp fully in a ghusl janaba if I have long hair or if you have long hair? So Sheikh, let's just say it's a male or a female. They have very long hair. They have to perform ghusl janaba. Sometimes it's hard to get the water into the scalp and so forth. Maybe it's easy to get the water into the head and scalp, but then they have to wash all the hair and this and that and so forth. What is required when performing the ghusl?
Yes, indeed, they have to make sure the water reaches the scalp.
Okay.
That's the whole idea about the ghusl janaba. Yeah.
Fair.
The body, it reaches the body.
From WhatsApp, can a husband and wife kiss or hug, etc., one another in public places? Sheikhna, showing love and affection in public places. This is one of the most famous laws in the UAE that Westerners are told that you're not allowed to, hold hands and this and that. You can be, arrested. It is seen as immoral to show love and affection to your spouse, who is halal on you, in public and so forth. What does the Jafri fiqh have to say about showing affection to your wife?
Well, if it's just hugging, just normal, showing love. For example, somebody meets his mother as a son in the airport, and they would hug.
Yeah.
But when it comes to arousing the lust of the others as a result of your showing affection and so forth, that would be, of course, an issue.
Fair.
To avoid it.
Fair. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna, from WhatsApp. I work at an exchange office, but they also make me sell lottery. Is it permitted to sell lottery in this case? Selling lottery tickets.
Well, if the lottery is known to be part of the gambling games, or it's a mushkil, it's a problem in terms of selling and buying.
Question, Sheikhna. We are in a Western country. I live in a house where people lived before. Do we deem these things like the doors, the water taps, and whatever we can touch with wet hands as najis?
Yes, everything is tahir, everything is pure and tahir, unless you're certain that it's najis. You have to consider everything around you is pure and tahir, unless you have a certainty that it's been and somehow became najis by somebody who lived before, let's say.
Yeah.
He will tell you that there's a najasa in this spot, for example. Then you have to purify it if you want to use that place for, let's say, salah and so forth.
There was a problem once, Sheikh. I remember my uncle bought a house and they had a dog before. So there was dog hair everywhere. Everywhere you looked, there was like up the stairs, on the carpet and so forth. Everywhere there was dog hair. It was really, really difficult. But yeah, it can be a bit of an issue. Quick reminder to all our viewers that this is a live show. We do take in your questions. If you have any questions you'd like to ask in regards to Islamic law, please send them in via the WhatsApp number, which is on the bottom. You can scan the QR code and that'll take you straight to the WhatsApp page. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, put your questions in the comment section. Inshallah, the technical team will be able to send them to me on my iPad here. And if you'd like to call in 0203 515 0199, you can have a lovely discussion with myself and the Sheikh. Sheikhna, if someone who is responsible for his family's expenses but does not pay for the expenses of his family, or he does not spend enough for their essential needs despite the fact that he's well off, is it permissible for the charity fund to give help to this family? So we've got someone here, Sheikhna, who's like neglecting his responsibilities, and the family are considering going towards charity and so forth in order to help. Is this allowed? The charity, is that okay?
If there's a desperate need, as mentioned, of course there's no harm. They can actually give them from the charity funds, for example, because they're now have lost their support from, let's say, the father for any reason. He separated from the family and so forth. He cuts his, let's say, spendings and on his family. In this case, they can go back to the charity organization and receive benefits and so forth. Even if they can go back, for example, to the Baytul Mal, ask from the office of the Marja, for example, to support. We have lots of charity organizations run by the Maraja offices. they can seek help from, and this has actually been done in Iraq and Iran and other parts, where they would get money from those offices. They have offices around the country.
Sheikh, from YouTube, is it halal to live in a house that's been bought from a mortgage which includes riba?
As mentioned before, ulama and overall would allow for the individual who is in hardship and difficulty in terms of renting property to buy his first home, so first time home, to buy his own home as a first time and pay mortgage for 25, 30 years. But for the second property, there's a problem. You cannot purchase it and invest it unless there's a necessity, there's a darura. Otherwise, you can only buy your first home and you can live in it. There's no issue with it.
Sheikh, is it permissible to invest a percentage of the donor's fund in authorized fields, and how should the percentage be determined?
It depends on the board of trustees, those who run the mosque or the center. In overall, you have to see how it works. Basically, you have to make sure that this is in line with the donor's, let's say, agreement, for example, that they actually donating just for the mosque's expenses and funds, and not to be taken out of the mosque for investment and so forth.
Can I touch or kiss my fiance? According to His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani.
The Sayyid Hafidhullah mentions that it's not permissible unless there is a nikah contract performed with the other side, with the opposite gender.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. Can a country run by a Muslim government legislate taxes similar to the taxation system that is applied in the West?
You see, Islam has its own legislations and laws, and we don't really need any other laws to be imported to the Islamic Ummah and nation. But sadly, that's what happened. By now, every Muslim country, they have now custom and taxes outside the Islamic taxes.
Yes.
Because we have four main Islamic, let's say, taxes or dues to be paid to the Islamic government. And that is khumus, zakat, jizya and kharaj. And nothing else should be paid other than these four to the Muslim government. So sadly, today we have witnessing that this is not actually happening, and they are charging, let's say, VAT. They're charging
ridiculous
duty on
I mean,
on customs and
if you
so
think
forth,
about our income tax in the UK, especially 20, 30, 40%, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Exactly.
Sheikhna, from YouTube, can I play card games with a group including non-Muslim girls?
Initially, to play with the non-Muslim girls or with the opposite gender, this is an ishkal by itself. So we have one issue here in terms of playing with the opposite gender.
So if I'm playing snakes and ladders with a female,
you're gonna be falling into the haram, banter, cracking jokes, laughing. That will eventually, the shaitan would play the role in terms of falling into the acts of haram.
Yes.
So that's one aside. And the other part of the question is that to play the cards, the hearts and the kings, that's of course, if it's gambling, is haram. That's the issue.
Fair. Sheikhna, another question here. If the building that is assigned as Waqf is in ruins, does it lose its Waqf status?
No, it doesn't. They have to, let's say, rebuild, renovate, refurbish this building, which is destroyed, let's say, by natural causes or, let's say, by war and so forth. They have to rebuild it and then reuse it again as a mosque, as a center, because it's Waqf. It's part of the endowment. You have to make sure that this remains as long as they remain in that place and in that location.
Sheikh, according to His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sheikh Wahid Khorsani, is it permissible to probe and spy into another person's house with the intention of gathering information for the sake of enjoining good and forbidding evil?
The Sheikh mentions that it's not permissible because the Quran is very clear. وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا. Do not spy against each other. Spying is something rejected in Islam. There's very exceptional conditions in terms of the war between the Muslims and non-Muslims. There are very exceptional cases that they would go and seek information from the enemy. How many are they, let's say, when they're going to attack, let's say. So in terms of to be a defensive battle, for example. Very exceptional cases, but in overall it's not allowed. This is not how you would go and do Amar Ma'ruf Nahy Anil Munkar. There are rules and conditions in terms of enjoining good and forbidding evil.
Sheikh from YouTube, can I read ziyarah with a non-mahram girl?
You see, again, I don't know why we try to in somehow engage with the opposite gender when there is a same gender available within, let's say, the college, the school, the working environment. That attraction towards the other. Of course, there is something in it in terms of instinct in one's self that is attracted to the opposite gender. This is tabi'i, natural. But you have to use the right routes and methods to get to the opposite gender in the halal way, in the correct way. So it's better to avoid it unless it's in a public place. That's fine. Yeah, we have the gents here and the ladies on the other side, even next to each other in a Imam Barga, Husseiniya mosque. Fine, they recite Dua Kumail, Dua Nudba, and so forth. That should be fine. But as a we have another issue here. If they are alone in a place, a closed place, of course, that's haram. That's it's called as khalwa. To be in seclusion with the opposite gender, that's haram, of course. And the narration says the third one would be the shaitan who would be with these two individuals. So one should always try to avoid any kind of attractions or to fall into the traps of shaitan in somehow.
I see.
In the name of dua or recitation or worship and so forth.
Ahsan. From YouTube, Salam alaikum Sheikhna. Is it true that Nabi Yunus was trapped in the belly of a whale as a punishment because of his rejection of Imam Ali's wilayah? If so, how?
I haven't heard about this issue because Allah Azza wa Jal initially took the wilayah, the ahad of the wilayah from each prophet.
Yes.
And he did not become a prophet unless he gave the bay'ah or the acknowledgement to the wilayah of Muhammad or Ali Muhammad.
Yes.
And Ali al-Islam is of course on top of the the wilayah.
So
that's before the prophethood. Otherwise, he wouldn't give him the prophet.
Yeah.
The prophetness or the prophethood is individual at all.
Fair. From YouTube, Assalamu alaikum Sheikh.
As-salam.
What should one do? When should one do istikhara? There's someone I'm interested in for marriage, always is, but haven't heard back from them in a while and wanted to message them. Don't message me. We don't chase girls. But Sheikhna, istikhara on there's someone they're interested in. They haven't heard back from them. Thinking of doing istikhara. I don't know whether it's istikhara for messaging the family or so forth, or istikhara is this girl good for me or so forth. I don't know what the intention is. However, when should one do an istikhara?
Istikhara is taken when somebody is in the situation of indecision and to be uncertain about something. You're in the position of 50-50. You're not sure what to do. Then, of course, you go and do it. Of course, you have first istishara. You would ask others, investigate, and then you do istikhara at the very end when you're in a deadlock situation.
I see.
So you would do istikhara, of course.
I always believe, Sheikhna, that you always have a decision in mind anyway, in regards to anything, whether it's whether I should do this course at university, whether I should take this majlis to recite, whether I should marry this girl or so forth. You always know within inside. It's like, what do you want to do yourself? You don't really need to go to do an istikhara. Why don't you just do what you feel like? But then again, some people find it difficult to make decisions, so I guess that's what they need. From WhatsApp, Sheikhna, are all parts of an animal halal to eat, such as testicles?
No, of course, there are parts you're not allowed to eat, of course, as mentioned, yes.
I'm sure the organs are not allowed. I think lungs,
8, 9
pancreas
parts.
are not allowed to eat. Yeah, it's in the thing of the Salah Amaliyah I read. The nerves from the,
you mentioned something before,
spine,
I remember.
they're not allowed. I think the pancreas is not allowed to be eaten. And there's more lungs, I think. Heart is okay, liver is okay, kidneys are okay. Private parts are not allowed, yeah. Especially to do with the digestion system, excretion and so forth. Really not appetizing at all. Sheikh, let's go to a break, and inshallah will join us after the break as we continue our discussions here on Ahkam SOS.
I have a question regarding keeping pictures of
Is it
scholars
permissible
at
to
home.
plant trees by or
What
over
does Islam
the
establish
graves?
based on peace
Is
and
it permissible
non-violence?
to collect donations for charity projects from
Is it
individuals?
permitted to consume canned food imported from non-Muslim
Is there
countries?
an issue for men looking at non-Muslim women?
To have your questions answered live, WhatsApp us on +44 7415 09 2155.
Yes, you can send in your questions via the WhatsApp number there. QR code in the corner, I think there. Also, you can call in 0203 515 0199. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, please put your questions in the comment section. We've had some amazing questions in regards to playing cards with girls and reciting ziyarah and also eating testicles. So if you have any questions, there's no filter or anything like that. Any question you have, we will do our best to answer those here on this show. Salaam alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam.
Sheikh, I've got a question here from WhatsApp. And it is, what age is the best for a boy and girl to get married in the West? Very, very interesting question, Sheikh. I'm sure that there are loads of different answers. People will say maybe as soon as the boy and girl feel lust, they should be married. Maybe others will say no, when they are financially stable. Others will say no, when they are mature enough to understand the responsibilities of marriage and so forth. Sheikh, in your opinion, here in the West, and you've lived here, you've grown up here, you understand society and how things are, what is the best time for a boy and girl to get married?
Well, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. There are two issues here with regards to the early marriage. Number one, you have the law of the land, so the laws and legislation of let's say Europe in overall. And you have the ahadith of Ahlul Bayt and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the law says, I think, 16 is the minimum, or 18. It depends on what country you live in. So, but in terms of the hadith of Ahlul Bayt and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they would mention that they would give an example that the virgins, like the fruits on the tree when it's ready to be picked by hand. If you leave it more than that, then of course the sun and the wind would ruin that fruit as a result.
It's not as ripe, it's not as sweet.
Exactly.
It's past, it's ripe.
If you get the fruit fresh, of course, one can make use of it in terms of the sweetness, freshness, and so forth. So the hadith would compare the virgins with, fresh fruits ready to be picked by hand from the tree. That's the time in which, because otherwise, we've seen this, issue, and we had lots of, problems with this regard by many parents, that they have lost their sons and daughters as a result, in terms of the friendship to consider or to take, boy or girlfriend as a result of not marrying as a result. So to avoid this kind of, corruption, facade, of course, the earliest the better, of course.
Fair.
And you have to consider as well the maturity of the girl and the boy, so they won't end up after a few months to divorce and separation, sadly.
Happens. From WhatsApp, I'm a virgin girl but independent financially. Is it necessary to obtain my guardian's permission for marriage?
Yes, according to Ayatollah Sistani, yes, you have to, even if you are independent from your parents in terms of income and so forth. As a precaution, you have to ask permission from your father as an obligatory precaution.
What does His Eminence Sayyid Sadiq Shirazi?
I think similar. Because they are virgin and they have no experience in terms of marriage,
so
and they could fall into the hands of the prey, ala kulli hal. So
that's understandable. No, the father and the grandfather are to protect the women. That's another thing, Sheikh. A lot of people think that it's the father's being an obstacle in getting married, but it's not. It's the other way around. He's protecting his daughter.
Protect the girl,
and he will give to
falling into
the right person.
The wrong handle of the wrong person.
From WhatsApp, is mercy killing allowed? Now, Sheikh, mercy killing, there's two types. There's euthanasia, which is when a patient is so ill that they're not living. The brain is dead, this and that. They're just living off a lung breathing machine and so forth. So they'll say, look, the doctors have done everything. They cannot save this person. let's just switch off the machine and let them die. That's one. Another one, mercy killing, is, for example, when we see an animal that is in pain and so forth, and we put it out of its misery. We'll do the biha or chop its head off or put a gun to it because it's in so much pain and so forth. Is this allowed in Islam?
In terms of human beings, of course, as a human being, you're not allowed to kill somebody and take a soul. Because Allah Azza wa Jal, يَتَوَفَّى الْأَنفُسَ حِينَ مَوْتِهَا. Allah is the one who takes the soul in the right time, in the right location of this individual, be it somebody who has reached the age of 90 or even a child in his, let's say, early age, for example, early days of his life. So you cannot take the life, someone's life, or you take off the machines, for example, from this. It's not permissible. With animals, it's different because for the animals, let's say if you hunted an animal and it's still alive, you can basically slaughter and eat it. So there's no issue with it.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
As-salam.
I technically messaged his friend regarding marriage, but that was 1 month ago. To be fair, he's extremely busy. I don't want to scare him away. I don't know what that is. Please, can you make sure your questions are questions? If you want to write a sentence or something, write a book. From YouTube, can I buy a haram gift for my non-Muslim friend? Great question, that, Sheikhna. Can I buy a haram thing for my non-Muslim friend? For example, bottle of wine. It's very common here in the West. When someone invites you over to dinner, you take a bottle of wine. Maybe I will buy them some food, but it's not haram. For example, a chicken burger or some pasta or something. Not pork, chicken, that's not halal, or beef, that's not halal, and so forth. Is this allowed?
In terms of the wine or alcohol in overall, and pork meat is not permissible, even if they are not Muslims. And they consider these things are, in their own aqeedah or belief, permissible and halal. You cannot. Other than that, let's say haram fish or meat and chicken, which is not halal, slaughtered, it's allowed.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
As-salam.
If the roots of a tree run in someone else's property, what should one do? Now, that is a very good question, because as we are aware, trees, they can grow quite far as well. Also, we know in an Islamic state, if you put trees around that piece of area, that's your land, so it belongs to you. But here in the West, it's a bit different. So let's say I have a tree in my garden, Sheikhna, quite close to a fence, and the roots are going into my next door neighbour's garden. What do I do?
Well, you're allowed to prevent it somehow. If you bring a garden, for example, to divert the root, back to his garden, for example, your neighbor's garden, and somehow. Otherwise, if there's damage, of course, you're allowed to go seek compensation for damaging your garden, your fence, whatever.
Yeah. On instructions from the Almighty, the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family, appointed 12 Imam, our leaders, to succeed him, and said, the successor, Khulafa, after me will be 12. But what did the Prophet say as a warning to the Muslim Ummah besides this hadith?
I mean, this hadith is very famous in the book of the Sahih of the non-Shia, the books of Shia even, that about the 12 Khulafa from Quraysh, very famous. Alhamdulillah, this puzzle is solved in the,
yes, we can name 12. We can give you the full 12, yeah.
But they can't give us exactly the names of their Khulafa. And they struggle because you have the first, second, third, fourth, and who is the fifth? Yazid ibn Muawiyah? Yazid, who used to drink openly and commit kada wa kada openly, and killed the grandson of the Prophet ﷺ in Karbala. So they get in a trouble in terms of, naming the right 12
See, but
leaders.
In their argument, Sheikh, they'll say, we haven't had 12 Khalifs yet. We've only had 4, or we've had 6. They'll say, we're still waiting for more to come.
The Prophet said, "Min ba'di," after me. So there's a chain of Khulafa coming one after another. And even when they established the Saqifa and the Khilafah system, it was one after another. First, second, third, and so forth. So that's not accepted at all. Of course, they narrate as well, and I think it's in Bukhari as well, that whoever dies and he has no bay'ah to an imam, he dies as a death of a jahiliyyah, of an ignorant one. So we ask them, who is your imam now? Alhamdulillah, we have Imam al-Zaman, very clear who is the imam. But who is their imam today? Ask every non-Shia alim. Who is your Imam
They don't have
al-Zaman?
one, Sheikh.
Otherwise, if you die, you'll die as a jahil. As a jahil, I mean jahiliyyah, death, sadly. Without acknowledging the Imam, then you'll be in trouble. Yeah.
Is it permissible to do taslim prior to the Imam?
It's not wajib to do taslim before the Imam does the taslim. Of course, the thawab would be less and aqal. And you don't have to repeat the salah if you do taslim before the Imam. But of course, to follow the Imam's recitation would be, of course, better.
Is it mandatory to reply to the salam of one who said the salam jokingly or in ridicule? Sheikh, we get this all the time. Sometimes when you go to work or sometimes when you go to high school, college, university, you have non-Muslim friends who are very familiar with Muslim culture and they'll say Salaam alaikum to you. Maybe not in ridicule, but maybe just to be friendly and so forth. Is it wajib for us to respond to that?
No, it's not wajib. It's not let's say, a genuine salam alaikum.
So sincere.
And even in salah, which is wajib in salah, to reply back to the salam, you're not allowed to reply to the salam of such individuals who are joking with their salam. So you have to avoid saying, to reply the salam in your salah. It's not allowed because it's not a genuine salam compared to the normal salam in which you have to reply wajib even if you're in salah. So you would stop your recitation, your surah or dhikr in salah and say Assalamu alaikum and then continue with your salah. That's wajib. But for such joking, that's saying salam, of course you have to ignore it in somehow.
Quick reminder to all our viewers out there that this is a live show. We're taking all your questions. If you have any questions you'd like to ask in regards to Islamic law, and it can be any question: marriage, business, traveling, praying, food, drink, whatever you have a question on, please send it in via the WhatsApp or YouTube Live in the comment section of Facebook Live in the comment section. We don't need to know your name. We don't need to know where you're asking from. We don't need to know anything like that. Totally anonymous. Any question you like, and inshallah, myself and the Sheikh will be able to answer those questions. And we have some right now from YouTube. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. Is it permissible to cut oneself on the day of Ashura? I think they're in regards to bloodletting. And yes, Sheikhna, on the day of Ashura, it's a ritual that a lot of Shias perform. Whether it is tabbar or qamazani, as they call it, which is striking the head, or whether it is zanjir zani, which is chains on your back. Sometimes the chains have knives and so forth. Is this permissible?
You see, this requires a detailed answer. And alhamdulillah, ulama, they have answered. The majority said it's at least it's permissible, jaiz.
Minimum, it is
at least, if not mustahab, and some mustahab muakkad, encouraged, in terms of the mustahbab. And this is based on the riwayat of Ahl Bayt, that the word jaza', if you look through the search engines of the riwayat, that the Imam says every jaza', which means extreme grievance, extreme grievance, is haram, except on Al-Hussein alayhi salam. And the extreme grievance would reach up to what? To let your blood out from your body. Of course, without loss of limb or disabling an organ inside your body, for example, or to blind yourself, for example. That's not allowed, of course. But just to let off. We have hijama, for example. The hijama is very famous. And it's Rasulullah's sunnah.
Yes.
And he would also mention that it's from your forehead,
the head, and
the head
back,
all the way to between your nose and forehead and your head, top of your head. So it's actually the place of the qama. And the back of the ones as well. So hijama is there as some kind of bloodletting, which is now performed in the Muslim nation around the world,
it's
even in Europe as well, and it's permitted and allowed and even legalized.
Yes. From WhatsApp, can I tattoo Islamic word on my body? Okay, I don't know what an Islamic word is, Sheikhna, but let's just say if it's a Quranic ayah or something like that.
It's a problem in terms of the Allah's names or verses. In terms of when one is in a state of janaba, it's a problem.
What about the names of the Imma?
Again, one should avoid.
Dhul Faqar, things like that.
One should avoid if it's the Imam's names, just in case.
Sheikhna, what is the ruling concerning audible recitation of the Dhuhr Salah on Friday? Now, I have witnessed many times on a Friday, Dhuhr Salah is read aloud rather than silently. Is this acceptable? Is this okay?
For the Friday Salat al-Dhuhr, it's mustahab precaution. So it's mustahab for the one to recite aloud and not silent. Just Salat al-Dhuhr, Alhamd wa Surah, the first and second rak'ah, in the Salah on Friday, of course. Seems to be there's a specific evidence for this type of recitation in terms of Salat al-Dhuhr, in which it's wajib to recite it silent in all cases. But for the Salat al-Dhuhr on Friday, it's mustahab precaution to recite it aloud.
Thank you, Sheikh. Final question for this evening from YouTube. Can I buy leather from a non-Muslim country? I think they mean leather. Can I buy leather from a non-Muslim country?
The problem is when it comes to the rain, for example, and this leather is animal leather slaughtered in a non-Muslim country, with cross-contamination with your body, it becomes najis. You can't pray with it. Again, you can't wear it and pray. So these are the issues of, you find in terms of najasa, impurity, salah. If you can buy them from Iran, Iraq, Egypt, Turkey, that would be better in terms of, because they're all slaughtered halal in those countries. At least you can be sure that it's been brought from the Muslim country. But from China, other places, non-Muslim countries, it's problematic in terms of, as I've said, salah and purity and impurity.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Now, we do have one more question. However, inshallah, we're going to roll that over to Wednesday's episode because we are out of time here at Imam Hussein TV. Thank you so much, Sheikh, for your efforts and for your work. And thank you to all the viewers for joining us on this episode of Ahkam SOS. If we didn't answer your question, we do apologize. We run out of time. However, we'll roll it over to Wednesday's episode, 7 p.m. here on Imam Hussein TV 3. I've been your host, Muslim Shia. Please join us again and enjoy the celebrations of the birthday of the Holy Prophet and Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
As lovers of the Ahlul Bayt,